Hi everybody, it's Marcy, and I've got to start making some Christmas cards. Here I've got one that I put together pretty quickly this morning and thought I'd bring you along with me. This is just a simple gatefold card. This one opens up and then down, but I thought I'd make another one that opens side to side. And these are not my ideas. I actually took a class that Maddie at Spectrum Art Creations held. She hosted it, and Spectrum Art Creations will be in the description box below. And the class was taught by Angela at Serendipity Arts. Very nice lady. Did a great job. Her YouTube channel will also be linked below. So I'm going to jump right in, and what you will need is some plain cardstock and then whatever decorative papers you want. I'm going to be using this hunky-dory pad that I did get from Maddie at Spectrum Art Creations. But you can use whatever you want. And you will need, or you could use digitals. Your choice. But you will want something, a piece of ephemera. This will be the topper on the one I'm making now. And this little piece is the topper. So something like that. Okay, so let me get started. And what I'm doing is different than what Angela did in its sizing and stuff like that. Just because this works better for my needs. So you're going to want an 8.5 by 11 sheet of cardstock. Now what I've learned is my cardstock is not right at 8.5 by 11. And most of the time, that doesn't matter. But for a gatefold card, it will matter. And let me show you what I mean. See, that's all the amount, and that's what, maybe 1/16 of an inch, about that. But when you're making a gatefold, it will cause your gate openings to overlap. So double check your cardstock. And since I've got it in here, I'm going to go ahead and double check my length too, although that is not as important. And it too is about 1/16 of an inch off. Okay. So once you're certain that your cardstock is 8.5 by 11, we're going to cut it to 8.5 by 5.5. And this means that you will be able to get 2 cards of this size out of 1 sheet of cardstock. All right, put that away. My big cutter is easier to use when I'm trimming those tiny edges off. And then I'm going to use my scoreboard. All right, and I've got my 8.5 side up at the top. And I'm going to score at 2 1/8, which on my scoreboard is 1 tick mark past the 2. And then I'm going to turn it around just because it makes it easier, and score at 2 1/8 again. And that's all the scoring I need to do. So now I'm going to fold and burnish that down using my bone folder. All right, and now I've got a gatefold card that meets just about perfectly in the center. I know it's hard to see because it's white on white. Then you're going to need, so that's the base of our card. Then you will want your, whatever cardstock you're using. Let me back up for a second. When it's this way, this makes your card be 4 1/4 wide by 5 1/2 inches tall, which is an A2 size. I think it's also called a 5-bar if you're using an envelope maker, but good size for mailing, standard card size, 2 out of 1 sheet of cardstock. Okay, so now I want, for my front panels, I want some cardstock that is 2 inches wide by 5 3/8 inches tall. So I'm going to go ahead and cut the 5 3/8. And what this is going to do is leave me a 1/16 of an inch all the way around my edges. So 2 inches. And I'm going to flip this around and cut this at 2 inches. So 2 inches there. And then I've got this little piece left over. So these will go on my front flap like that. Okay? So I'm going to set those aside, and now I'm going to cut my inside pages or pieces. And here I will want another one that is 2 by 5 3/8, one here that's 2 by 5 3/8, and one for the center that is 4 1/8 by 5 3/8. And I know I'm using a lot of 8s in this, and I apologize. So, let's get this to the 5 3/8, so I only have to make that cut once. And I'm going to do 2 inches here. My paper trimmer really does not like this particular paper. 2 inches here. And then I will use this for the center. And what did I say I want it to be? 4 1/8. So just a tiny bit needs to come off that. Okay, so then these will be used here and on the insides, like that. Now, before I go any further, I do want to ink around the edges of all my pieces of paper because I don't want that white core to be showing. So I'm going to pause the video while I ink around all my edges, and then I'll come back and we'll put this thing together. Okay, so I inked around all my edges, and now I'm going to start putting, now that I've got all my pieces and they're ready to go, I'm going to start putting my card together. So I'm going to start with my inside piece, and you can use whatever kind of adhesive you want. I rarely use tape, but for when I'm making cards. And so I'm going to be using some tape And I will be using a little bit of glue as well. And the other thing I wanted to mention, and I want to try to line it up as best I can from top to bottom and side to side. I want it inside my folds. I don't want it traveling over my fold lines. And remember, perfection is not required nor desired. It's a handmade card. Okay, so now I'm going to put my panels on. And you will see here that I am making mine very simply. I'm not adding a sentiment inside the card at this point. I will do that when I determine who each card is going to. And I'm not adding embellishments to the card yet. Again, that's something I will do later. I may have a few of them that are popped up a little bit or something, or have a little bit of something on them. But I try to, at least these will be mailed, and so I need several like this that will be easily mailed and aren't bulky. Others that are either going to be hand delivered or perhaps be packed in with a gift, that's fine. But in this case, what I'm really doing is just making some pretty flat cards. Okay, so there's the inside. So you've got lots of room here for your sentiments and signing, and you've got a pretty fold out there. Okay, so now I'm going to come back to my front, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to put my two front panels down. And what's nice about gatefold cards, whether you are making Christmas cards or journaling cards for your junk journal, is that they are easy, but they have some interest to them. And at the end, I'm going to tell you how you can easily change the sizes to whatever you want. I say easily. It does involve some math, but just pull up the calculator on your computer or your phone, and it makes it much easier. Okay. Need to scoot that up a little bit. All right. Now I'm just burnishing my tape. Burnishing those edges again. Flip it over. Now I'm not going to be decorating the back of this, but if you've got, oh, that one's a bit small somewhere. There you go. That one would work. If you've got a spare piece of scrapbook paper or something that you want to put on the back, feel free to do that. Okay, now for the topper, no. Okay. That way. Okay. Now for the topper, I'm going to eyeball it and get it about centered. And for this, I'm actually going to use glue because I don't want to over tape. So I'm going to run glue down just this left-hand side, and I will not go all the way to the edge of where I think it's going to sit. I'm going to get it laid down, and then I will come back and add a little more glue underneath if need be, but I don't want it to seep out. And the only reason I'm using glue here is A, so I don't over tape, and B, it gives me a second more to make some little adjustments if I want to. The art glitter to glue doesn't give me long, but it gives me a little longer than tape does. All right. So now I've got that down, and now what I can do is come back in underneath and add some more glue. That way so that it, again, does not seep, but is glued down a little better. And very simply, that is my Gatefold Christmas card. Now, here comes the math part, but it really is helpful. I'm looking to see if I have a... Let me grab a piece of scrap paper. I'll use that. That'll work. Okay. Sorry about that. I should have been more prepared. Okay. So, let's say, and I'll use this as one example, and I'll do it a couple of times. So I've got this strip of paper, and let's say I want to turn it into a gatefold. It is 11 inches long. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, and you won't be able to see it, but I'm pulling up my calculator on my computer. So half of 11, so 11 divided by 2 is 5.5, okay? 5.5 divided by 2 is 2.75. So if I pull out my scoreboard and I score at 2.75 or 2 3/4, flip it, score again at 2 3/4 or 2.75. Then, when I fold them in, they will meet in the middle. Okay? So now I have, it's very short, but I have a 5.5 inch gatefold. Okay, now, let's say you have a specific size that you want. Let's say you want to make a gatefold journal card and you want it to be 4 by 6. So 4 inches wide, 6 inches tall. You're going to want your paper to be twice as long as the width. So if we want it 4 inches wide, we need a piece of paper that is 8 inches long. So I'm going to cut this to 8 inches. And let's cut it down to 6 inches tall. You can go ahead and cut your height to whatever height you want it to be. But your width will need to be twice as long as you want your finished product to be. So we want a 4 by 6. We've already got the 6. So if we want it 4 inches tall, or 4 inches wide, I'm sorry, and we've got our 8-inch sheet of paper. We took 4, we want it 4 inches wide, so we multiplied that times 2 to get an 8-inch sheet of paper. Now, we're going to divide. So 8 divided by 2 is 4. 4 divided by 2 is 2. So we know we need to score at 2 inches. Turn it around, score at 2 inches again. Fold it. And now you've got a perfect 4 by 6 gatefold journal card. Ready to be decorated however you want it. Now, I know that's a lot of math, and I know a lot of you don't like a lot of math. The easier way to do it is take your paper. I'm very precision-oriented, but if you take your paper and just eyeball it, get it at about center, and just fold it down, then you also get a gatefold card. I tend to be, and that works just as well, especially for a junk journal. I tend to be a little more precision oriented, so I kind of like having my measurements, even though I have to use my calculator to make my marks. But, so, great for junk journaling and great for simple card making. Okay, guys, that's it for today. Until next time, I wish you all a wonderfully and happy crafty day, and I will see you all again very soon. Bye-bye.